One week ago, I was present for the pro abortion rally in Washington, D.C. Hey guys, this is Tim. Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Christians. This is the channel where we help encourage you to engage in dialogue, to grow as a disciple, and we equip you to defend historic Christian faith. So, abortion is a very hot topic right now, and this is not a political channel. I have no intention to getting into political issues. However, today, in this day and age, the lines between moral issues and political issues are increasingly blurred. Abortion is one of those. This is an issue where I think pastors are fully equipped and from the Bible, and they should speak on this topic from the pulpit. We're not talking about what an effective tax rate should be, or a particular amendment to the Constitution, or what even the Supreme Court's role is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get what I'm saying here. The abortion issue is totally different. We are talking about the value of human life, when human life is valuable, what constitutes a person. And because of the nature of those discussions, this is a political topic that it's important for Christians to make a point to engage with. So now I was not in Washington, D.C. for the purpose of going to this rally. I was present for the rally, not participating in it necessarily. Obviously, I'm pro-life, and I'm not just pro-life, I'm anti-abortion. But I was in D.C. for another reason, and I was waiting for a friend that I was meeting there to arrive, and I had a couple of hours before he was going to be there, so I was just walking around the National Mall, and before I had gotten to D.C., I looked just to see if there was any events going on that day, because there's always something going on in D.C., and sure enough, the Bands Off Our Bodies rally was happening Saturday morning down at the base of the Washington Monument, in a big field. They set up a stage. The plan was to have this rally there, and then they were going to march down to the Supreme Court. So I thought, hey, I'm going to go check it out. Maybe I can go talk to some people about the value of life, and maybe we have fruitful discussions. So I went, and I was really intimidated. Now, nobody was walking around looking for pro-lifers and like, oh, where's the pro-lifers, or being mean or anything like that. I like doing public evangelism. I like engaging in one-on-one discussions and things like that. But I felt like I was in a lion's den, in that I could see no one that shared the same perspective that I did. Everyone, I mean, obviously it was a pro-abortion rally, right? But I thought, well, maybe there'll be some like pro-life counter-protesters or something like that. Well, there wasn't, at least at the time. And it was pretty intimidating. Now, I did end up talking to two people before I left, and I'm glad I did that. Here's how the discussion went. Before I show you that, here's a couple of pictures. Here's just two pictures. This is as the rally is getting ready to go on. It hasn't started yet. People are starting to show up. And the only other picture I have is this one. Lady was holding a sign. This is abort the Supreme Court, which I guess it was interesting. I felt like it was interesting at the time. But so I was there, and I'm walking by, and I walk by this one lady. She's dressed up in the Handmaid getup, you know, the red with the bonnet and things like that from A Handmaid's Tale. And the icebreaker I did was, I said, hey, man, would you mind telling me a little bit about your costume? And she did. She told me what it was. I knew what it was, but I was just trying to break the ice in a friendly way. And then I came out right away, and I said, hey, you know, I'm pro-life, because I don't want to hide that. I said, I'm pro-life. I was curious if maybe we could have a conversation and try to find some common ground. And as I will expound upon, there's really not much common ground to be had in this discussion. And I don't know if you can recognize that right away. But as we get a little bit more into the details of this, you'll see that there really isn't common ground, at least on the to the extreme abortion supporters, who I think are a true minority. So we started talking, and I'm making a very deliberate intention to keep the conversation calm. We were back away from the crowd, which helped give me the courage to engage in this, because I was like, how can I talk to someone without building a group, because everybody's going to hear me speak up as a pro-lifer, and I think people are going to would crowd. Maybe they wouldn't, I don't know, but I was chickening out. But anyways, we're having this discussion. I said, as pro-lifer, I said, this is, you know, let me tell you how I see things as someone who's pro-life. I say, I see it as a human life at conception. I said, the American College of Pediatricians, you know, published a paper on this. They too agree that it is a unique human life at the moment of conception. That is truly the science behind it. The science says this is a unique human life at the moment of conception. And then you'll take my word for it. You look at this up on your own. When you decide that it's not a human life at any other stage, you'll see it's described as a philosophical position, and it truly is. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that too. But I said, I see this as a human life. And because I see this as a human life, every other decision and opinion I form comes after that, or is formed by that initial acknowledgement. Is that because I recognize it as a human life? And I really think that's how we should frame these discussions. Because we recognize it as a human life, here are the implications of that. Or if you don't recognize it as a human life, when does it become a human life? And truly, truly, the moment of conception is the only consistent point based on science or anything to determine it to be human life. And to take the position that it becomes a human life at any other stage quickly falls apart. But we had a very good conversation. We were both calm, it was me and these two ladies. And as we proceeded through the discussion, through reason, I felt like I was able to counter their points pretty well. One of them being that you'll hear is that, they don't consent to a pregnancy. Well, I heard a really good analogy once, and it goes something like this. And the analogy says, I'm playing baseball in the backyard with my friends, and I accidentally break a window with the ball while playing baseball. Now, I consented to play baseball, but I didn't consent to breaking the window. And maybe you can kind of line up the analogy if you're following me. Even though I consented to play baseball, didn't consent to break the window, I accepted the responsibility that I could break a window, and thereby I have to own the responsibility of the window that I've broken. Okay, so we're talking about consent, sexual consent. Though I didn't want a pregnancy, I accept the risk of a pregnancy by participating in sexual intercourse. Okay, now it's a pretty good analogy, and I really think that logic and reason is on the pro-life side on this one. Because, and we're going to look at a couple of video examples in just a second, when we got to that point, and the ladies, when I was discussing with them, when they ran out of their use of logic and reason ran out, they fall back on, we are not your incubators. This is what they said. They said, women are they're not your incubators. They're not your incubators. And that was how they fall back. Now, we're going to look at some videos that came out of Congress this week on C-SPAN where the same thing happens. So let us take a look. The first one was put up on Twitter by Kayla McKinney and by C-SPAN, of course, in Congress. And this is just an example of questions, the use of logical, reasonable questions to an abortion activist. And now watch how she disregards any of the logic and reason and just insists on falling back on her philosophy that it's up to the individual's choice, full stop, which is what she says. So take a look.
So abortion should be allowed then, by your definition, for any reason, for any purpose, at any stage, right?
I trust people to make decisions about their body, and then when relevant, I think that they need to consult their medical practitioners.
Okay.
And not
If
Congress.
it is, listen, let me just ask you this question. If it is not lawful and morally acceptable to take the life of a 10-year-old child, I assume you agree with that, right? That would be wrong, correct?
I believe that.
Okay.
That is
And a
wrong.
2-year-old child, same thing. That would be murder. We would all agree that's wrong. Then what is the principal distinction between the human being that is 2 years old or 9 months old or 1 week old or an hour old than one that is 8 inches further up the birth canal in the utero? What's the difference? Why is it okay in the latter case and not the former cases?
I trust people to determine what to do with their own bodies.
Wow.
All right.
Full stop.
All right, so there you have it. So see, he through the use of logic and reason, he reasons with her, and it is a very reasonable question, not to abuse that word, but to say, she says it's no restrictions, right? Which is actually what I asked these two ladies in the park. It's a good question to open up with. I said, hey, I know a lot of people here saying no restrictions at any point. I said, is that your position? Would you say that there should be a point where abortion shouldn't be allowed, at least just for the sake of convenience, outside of the life of the mother and et cetera. And true staunch abortion supporters will not take a side on that. So you can add, the question is legitimate to say, what is, like this congressman asked, what is the difference between a baby that is in the uterus and that is born 30 minutes later is now outside the uterus and now is illegal to kill. What is the moral difference in that? And there truly isn't one. This is a philosophical argument that they make. Now, I saw lots of signs at the pro-abortion rally, and they all said, "Keep your theology out of our biology." You know, the rally was called "Bans Off Our Bodies." I'm not making a religious argument. I haven't, and I don't. I mean, I do think there is a religious component to it, but I don't need to appeal to that because, number one, as a society, we should recognize that that's a human life. And therefore, how do we treat that human life? Now, as a Christian, I say because it's a human life, it has inherent value. It's made in the image of God, and therefore, the utmost care and value I should extend to it. But there's a group out there called the PAAU, the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. I follow them on Facebook, and they're not Christians. They're atheists and progressive, and yet they recognize the consistency of life beginning at conception and the inconsistency of the pro-abortion argument. So we go on to the next video, and again, just the use of simple questions kind of expose the unreasonableness, the illogic used by the pro-abortion camp. Okay, so this one was posted by Benny Johnson, their C-SPAN video, and this time it is a pro-life supporter advocate that Congress is asking questions to. Check it out.
Is candidly and openly calling for a nationwide ban on all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest. And if I've got that wrong, I would invite Ms. Foster to correct me. Do I have it wrong, yes or no?
If we added rape and incest exceptions, would you vote for it?
Okay, I reclaim my time, of course.
Got him with the thug life. All right. Okay. So he said, you're being so extreme, you won't even allow for exceptions for rape and incest. She turned it around and exposed him that he doesn't care about that. He's the position that you must take if you're going to support abortion is that you don't allow for any exceptions. Am I saying that correctly? You don't allow for any restrictions. Excuse me. There we go. And he was baffled by that because he knows that's his position. He doesn't care about the 1% of abortions that happen as a result of rape or incest. And now think about it this is why we can't compromise on the rape or incest point. Because the value of that baby is still the same. It's still the same. The baby is not any less valuable. That human life is not any less a human, regardless of how the circumstances of the conception occurred. Now, I think rape is horrible. I don't want to force anyone to get pregnant and things like that. I think rape is one of the most abhorrent crimes that we should punish to the fullest. The death penalty should be on the table for cases of rape and incest. However, what we do not do is we do not punish the child for the crimes of the father, okay? The child is still a child regardless of the circumstances in which it was conceived. So you see, it's really important that we approach this topic and we answer the question that it is a human life. And the other point I want to bring is that when some people will recognize that it's a human life, but they'll say that it's not a person. They'll say, yeah, I know it's a human life, but it's not a person yet until whatever reason they give. Well, this has been argued before, and guys, I'm telling you, if you're an abortion supporter, you don't want to take this position. This is the same position that went before the Supreme Court in the 19th century called the Dred Scott decision that it said African Americans were only 3/5 of a person. It said, yeah, they were human, but they were not fully a person. You don't want to use that argument again, guys. Every human being has inherent value and dignity. We need to treat every human being that way. So I hope this gave you something to think about. I'm sure at whatever side you fall on this is a very contentious topic right now. Emotions are high. I would love to interact with your comments, your thoughts, things that you would lay out in the comments. Send me an inbox, like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. And I will talk to you guys on the next video.